Senate President Godswill Akpabio has urged West African leaders to embrace unity and integration as the region confronts instability and economic challenges, declaring that survival in today's global order belongs to the organized and the united. Delivering a message at the first parliamentary seminar and extraordinary session of ECOWAS, Akpabio described the gathering as a defining moment for regional integration. Represented by the Parliament's Deputy Speaker, Senator Jubreen Barrow, he warned that democracy in parts of West Africa has been bruised by instability and constitutional disruption, stressing that only solidarity can defend democracy and safeguard prosperity. He also noted that the African Continental Free Trade Area must move beyond protocol to productivity measured by lower costs, harmonized standards, and seamless cross-border trade. Arise News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to discuss these calls by the Senate President and Bianca Ojukwu and ECOWAS Parliament for more integration among West African nations. Mr. Sobowale, thank you very much for joining us this afternoon on this topic.
It's a pleasure.
Yes, so, this meeting is interesting because on the one hand, we're calling for more integration in West Africa, ECOWAS countries, but there's also this apprehension when it comes to open borders, the rising insecurity that we're seeing in different parts across the country, and people are attributing this to the fact that there's this free movement among West African countries. So how do we balance those two?
Well, that's the problem of the whole world right now. Immigration, security, and disruption of trade, and geopolitical cohesion. It's appropriate for them to be discussing that. But even there, somebody made a submission that they've been doing conferences and conferences, that it's now time to move towards having factories, having meaningful economic institutions on the ground to drive economic growth and deter insecurity. I think that's what they should all focus on. And you see, I'm not enthused by this mentioning of big names because the speaker was not there. Bianca Ojukwu herself was not there. But when you look at the personalities involved, you want to get involved with the topic. But the fact that they are not there, to me, belittles the discussion and the importance of the situation we are discussing. But then, you see, there was something that happened between Ghana and Burkina Faso just last week. They had a 7-point agreement on insecurity, trade, customs, and all that. See, they said they were reopening or strengthening the economic corridor between Tema and Ouagadougou. All these three military states in West Africa, they are all landlocked. They're all landlocked. So they are trying to have access to the sea. We had problems with Niger in having access to the sea, so they went to Benin Republic. They need access to the sea. That is what we should be concentrating on. Because the trade routes that the Europeans gave us, which we are still living with, were meant to send raw materials to Europe through the ports. We should do national trades now. Okay, intra-ECOWAS trade. Intra-ECOWAS trade amongst ourselves. Not to open our borders, because that would be dangerous. You get me? But to have shared information, intelligence, to give information to each other on movements we see that are suspicious and are dangerous to our economic survival. You see, the Tema Ghana thing is the practical thing. I mean, the Ghana Burkina Faso is the proper thing to do now. And that is what, maybe they're even borrowing a leaf from Trump. Like you said, Trump has disrupted free flow of people, globalization. And they say in America first. Why can't each nation look at its interest and say so first, Nigeria first? Because so it's going to be, you see, the rule-based global economic system is being disbanded and people are fleeing in different directions because of Trump. The EU, which happens to be our own master in this part of the world, is fleeing America literally. It's making trade deals with India. It's making trade deals with China. It's making trade deals with the Latinos. So that it is not crippled by Trump's tariffs and it can survive on its own. See, so we too should follow that line. ECOWAS it does not need to be a federation as such, or even a confederation. You see, the idea then, because between the Francophone, between France and Britain, was to still bring us under another umbrella for them to still continue to control us, just like we all laughingly and happily joined the Commonwealth. But that, they say, these three nations have kicked France out, and they are making new economic alliances, and they are surviving. The other day, you would think that they'll be cut off from the international financial system, but the IMF gave them loan to extract their uranium. That's still this sort of economic and colonial exploitation that we should be working against. Because even in the West, they know where their bread is buttered. They don't talk human rights to Saudi Arabia. Because Saudi Arabia has oil. They offer them protection. They say if you do anything wrong, they literally behead you. Nobody talks about. You stage the World Cup there. And Infantino, FIFA chairman, told them that when you go there, don't go and talk about culture. They whatever. Because they have the resources and they have developed their own area with their own culture. And even now, America too is accepting that they are not out to be the policeman or the sovereign of the world, that they respect the cultures and values of various nations. Let's leave it at that.
Well, you've touched on so many elements, talking about how it's time for us to move into meaningful economic institutions, having them on ground, and even talking about those that have left ECOWAS and progress that they've made, depending on which side you're on. But Mr. Sobowale, we've seen so many proposals for about 50 years now that the bloc has existed. So many proposals, so many talks. You know, like you rightly pointed out. When we look at, for instance, even the proposed eco-currency to replace national currencies, that's been on for 20 years. I'm just wondering, when you look at everything that looks relatively regressive, or the lack of progress that ECOWAS has made, do you think that it has to do with political will, economic divergence, sovereignty concerns? Where do you think the problem is coming from?
This is
majorly?
our colonial pedigree and background. You see, the European nations have never let go of the minerals and resources in Africa, which have sustained their economy. It was the Americans forced them to give us independence. That was Eisenhower. When the Suez crisis erupted, and Britain thought it was still equal partner with the US, and they seized the Suez Canal, France and Britain, and Eisenhower taught them a lesson, told them to stay in their places, and supported the NASA then. You see, the issue is that we too must look inwards within our vicinity and look for those we can do trade with, those we can cohabit with security-wise, and those we should eliminate at our borders, and be practical. And like somebody said at this same conference, that it's time to build factories, to build farms, to build digital databases, intelligence, and work on artificial intelligence to improve our economy and our environment. I think we'll sort it out. But you see, the danger is always there, because there's a price for bad leadership.
Yep.
If the democracy, the dividend does not come to the ground, the electorate will explode in anger. And if elections are free and fair, throughout those who have not honored their pledge to them at election time, or if that is not done, like it happened in the 3 African nations under military, that will be military coups. You see, but I think it's high time we realize that human rights is not the end product of good governance. You need to be in a safe environment first and foremost. And like I have always said, which I have always quoted, your freedom ends where my nose begins. We must have mutual respect for each other, but we must not hamstring governance and government. We must not hamstring majority opinion just because you have the right to dissent or differ from the general consensus. Excess of everything is bad. Even the West, somebody said, is suffering from, what was it now? Success punishment. That they feel that they have developed, success, disaster. They feel they have developed so much and improved my life so much that that's the end of history. And they can now enjoy themselves and feel free, and that's why they say they don't know who a man is. And that's one has polarized the world and has divided the world into strong men, China, Russia, North Korea, taking on those who are championing human. Even Trump is making a retraction for fighting the European Union on how far the rights can go in the face of hostile people taking over a country in the name of democracy. So there is a need for collective rethinking and individual sovereign rethinking, especially in our own part, because the rest of ECOWAS are envious of our size and resources, and they think we want to colonize them like the French and the English. So before even we talk, they are suspicious. So we will forge our way through. Let's leave it at that.
Mr. Dayo Sobowale, thank you very much for joining us to discuss the state of ECOWAS. Appreciate it.